This is Stuart from One Giant Leap Lifestyle Coaching. Today I just want to talk a little bit about stress and anxiety because it's a big problem in today's society, and there are a lot of things going on that can cause stress, certainly at this point. And it used to be that people tried to deal with stress by just trying to reduce how much they experience, which that is possible to a degree still. However, nowadays it's usually more helpful to think about, rather than reducing stress, how can I actually build resilience so that it doesn't get to me as easily. Now, stress and anxiety, everyone experiences it at some point in their life, but for people where it becomes a serious problem, it can develop into things like panic attacks or generalised anxiety problems. Now, they say that around 1 in 10 people will experience panic attacks, and in the UK the current statistics are around 1 in 100 people will have panic disorder. What we need to think about though is that anxiety is actually a natural response to stress. If we think about it, it's a reaction that's millions of years old, and there's parts of us that are actually hardwired to feel anxiety. So there are parts of the brain that are there just for us to experience that. The reason that's important is because what it means is that if your aim is to never feel anxious, then you're going to be disappointed, because anxiety is a hardwired emotion, just like happiness or sadness or any of the other emotions that we might experience. The difference between people who manage stress well and the ones that don't, it's not in the fact that they don't feel stress or feel anxious, it's in how they manage it, how they deal with it. So today I just want to talk about the different ways that people that don't seem affected by stress manage it differently from those that do get affected by it. I'm just going to mention about 4 ways, 4 elements. There are other ways in which they manage it differently, but these 4 ones are a good starting place. So what do people who manage stress well do that people that don't manage it well not do? First of all, they don't catastrophise about the situation. That means that they don't make mountains out of molehills. Now, we're all prone to doing this, and certainly, I include myself in this. But the important thing is about how we manage it, and recognising that that's a natural habit that some people have. That allows you to interrupt that pattern sometimes and just ask yourself, hang on a minute, am I keeping this in perspective, or am I making more of this than needs to be? People who deal with stress well, they keep things in perspective. That's to say that they don't let things appear magnified, or they don't blow things out of proportion. The second thing that people that manage stress well do is that they don't dwell or ruminate on the problem. What this means is that for some people who do experience anxiety, the problem will go round and round and round in their head. Now you can imagine that if the person does this, it's going to make them feel anxious and stressed pretty much all of the time. The second thing is that if they're also prone to this first error, making mountains out of molehills or catastrophising, then rather than being a cycle where it goes round and round, it actually becomes a spiral where each time they think about it, it becomes worse and worse and worse, until to the degree that the original problem is totally different from how it appears in their head. In other words, they're then dwelling on the worst case scenario. So the third thing that people that manage stress and anxiety well do, that the others don't, is that they take action rather than avoid the problem. Now, avoidance can seem like an attractive option. If we know we're going to get into trouble for something, it can feel better to avoid whatever it is. It can feel easier to avoid having difficult conversations, or it can feel easier avoiding something that we're scared of doing, or even just something we don't want to do. The thing about avoidance, though, is that while in the short term it means we don't have to deal with it, it keeps it in the periphery. So all of the time it's there in the back of our mind that we know at some point we're going to have to do it. The longer that we leave it, the worse it can become. Imagine if you had exams and you're revising for exams, but you decide to keep putting it off and leaving it and leaving it. It's only a matter of time, literally, before you realise that you're at the stage now where the exam is tomorrow and you've not done any work for it. Similar things happen with avoidance of anything, really. The longer it goes on, the more there's scope for it to build. So the third thing that people who deal with stress well do is that they don't avoid the situation, they take action and deal with it. The fourth and final thing that I'm going to mention is that people who deal with stress well, they realise that they can, and they realise that they have coped with similar challenges in the past. That's to say that they have experienced challenges in their life, but they realise that they've kind of gotten through it. People who are prone to anxiety or prone to overreacting to stress, it can feel as though they can't cope with it, and sometimes they feel as though they can't manage whatever's going on in their life. What I would suggest is everyone who is watching this video, no matter what challenges you've been through in your life, whatever difficulties are going on at the minute, whatever's gone in the past, you have survived right up to this very moment that you're watching this video now. Whatever difficulties have occurred, you've got through that. It might have been difficult, but you have survived. There is evidence there that you can cope with difficult situations, and realising that can be really helpful and can be quite affirming that you can manage with stress in the future. Okay, as usual, leave comments, leave feedback. If you want to get in touch, then send me a message. What would be quite helpful though is to not just watch this video and then switch off. Actually have a think about some of these things. If you're interested in stress or anxiety management, then look into it further. One of the ways of actually getting better at managing stress is exposing yourself to it. Just little amounts of stress each time and reflecting on how you did manage to cope with it. Maybe try and employ these 4 strategies that we've talked about today, and definitely do let me know how it works for you. Thanks for your time.